Let's hear from some of our viewers today. We're going to take some calls via Discord. You can find the Discord at davidpakman.com/Discord now with, I don't even know how many people are subscribed, 12,000, 13,000, something like that. Let's start today with Josh from Toledo. Josh from Toledo, you are on the air. What's going on?
Hey man, not much is going on. Just finishing up semesters at college. Uh, so I just wanted to pick your brain a little bit, if you're okay with it.
You know, I am okay with it.
About
However, pick your brain. That's like one of the red flags at a dinner party. If someone ever says, I want to pick your brain, I try to head for the hills because I'm about to get into a horrible conversation. I'm going to assume that because it's Discord, it's not going south.
No, no, not at all.
Okay, good.
I just wanted to get your opinion a little bit on the problem of misinformation in the media and how to combat it.
Yes. That's the whole question. There was not a specific thing.
Uh,
Hello.
yeah, sorry, I'm trying to be general here. I apologize.
Well,
If
listen.
you want to move on and
I've talked about the source of a lot of this is we have people who reach adulthood and they fall for this stuff. Earlier this week, Tucker Carlson did a segment where he simply said, I mean, this is just, it's so dumb, but a lot of people fell for it. Tucker said, why do we need any COVID precautions if the vaccines work? Maybe the fact that we still have COVID precautions is a sign that the vaccines don't work. And people are not, maybe it's that they're not confident enough to think for themselves. Maybe it's that they don't know how to parse and interpret and analyze such a media message. But it's like the answer is not enough people are vaccinated yet. It's really, really simple. And the only way to really almost like inoculate people from that is you need to be teaching critical thinking and media literacy much earlier. We're not doing it. It's not getting through. People are getting, terrible messages about how to think about things from people they grow up around and schools that are not working so well and people in their family and Facebook and whatever else the case may be. So it's not, there are things we can do to try to fix media, but the real solution would be to fix the viewing public so they don't fall for this garbage.
well, I completely agree with you on that, but do you think that there is some advantage in treating the current media problem like trying to break a cult?
Yes, no. You have to think it is cult like, and we've talked. I have interviews where we talk to cult experts, and they talk about how there is a cult like element to what's going on. It should be treated that way. It's an accurate analogy.
Okay. Uh, Also, I apologize if I'm bringing up topics that you have already covered a lot.
No
Um,
problem.
yeah, the I've been studying this whole thing personally for about a year now for one of my degrees. Um, and
Listen, yeah,
I
I love it. I'm going to let you go just because I have so many people waiting. I appreciate the one question. Let's look at a second question, maybe next time, just because there are a lot of people waiting to get on. Let's go next to Horace from Denver. Horace from Denver, you are on the air.
Hi, David.
How you doing?
What's up?
You tell me.
So I had a question
Yeah.
from something I saw on the bonus show on Thursday, which I caught later, so I guess that's why I'm calling about it now. It was about that new Utah law they've got, where it's like men pay 50% of the pregnancy costs,
Yes.
and I wasn't totally sure what you thought about that rule. That was the only thing I couldn't glean from it, and then what your view of the child support laws in general.
Yeah. So the story is one that's being mentioned here that we talked about on the bonus show earlier this week, where Utah is moving forward with a law where the biological father in a pregnancy is responsible for 50% of the cost of the pregnancy and birth, regardless of sort of like relationship status or involvement with the biological mother. And as I said on the bonus show, I like the idea that responsibility should be shared, even though one of the two people who are biologically the parents are responsible for the actual birthing and carrying to term of the child. The concerns include things like, well, if you have a situation of either domestic violence or a child conceived through rape, and then you are in theory sort of like tying a guy who may not be a good guy, who the mother may not want involved, to the child, and what does that do? But can we just deal with that
Yeah,
by keeping the financial responsibility separate from something that goes beyond that? I mean, I think that's the
yeah,
complexity.
I got that. I got that. I was just curious what you make of the. I guess there's the argument out there of like, should men have the obligation at all to be stuck financially to a child at all? And that was the part I'm always been curious about.
Well, what do you think? Should they?
I would. I kind of like what they do in Sweden, which is they say you can opt out of fatherhood. Now they have a robust social safety net that allows for, enables that much better, but there's still the principle
There
that
is
they
still the
act
principle. Yeah,
upon.
we do not have that
Yeah,
system here in the United States.
right. That would enable it, but then there's separate from that is the principle. I happen to be of the persuasion that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to obligate him financially to do that. And yeah,
Does the mother have that same choice? Could a mother
I
who's pregnant say,
it,
I also don't want to have any financial responsibility?
she has the ability to abort, adopt. She has all kinds of options there. Comparatively, you have a lot fewer options as a man, and it's kind of
You still
yeah
have to
we
be responsible though
we
in
recognize the human
seeking
right
out.
in 1K,
Yeah. We seem to be on a delay, and
but in the case
yeah, okay. I'm going to let you go for now. The connection is aggressively bad. I think there's a lot of issues there wrapped up in that, not all of which we are necessarily able to get to right now. Let's go to Ricky from Charlotte. Ricky from Charlotte, you are on the air.
Hey David, can you hear me all right?
I can hear you fine.
Cool. So I wanted to ask real quick about Florida. I think it's been a pretty big disaster for the Democrats the past few election cycles. And the way that I see it, it looks like DeSantis is going to cruise to his reelection, just the way things stand right now. But I did see that the agriculture commissioner of Florida, she's like the only statewide elected Democrat. Overall, she's a pretty generic Biden type Democrat, but she is pretty big on pro legalizing marijuana. And
Hmm.
they're also trying to get a ballot initiative for legalizing it in 2022. Do you think if they tried to run a campaign where she is saying, vote for me and vote for legalizing weed, it polls pretty well, like over 60%, which is what they need.
Yeah.
And if you elect me, we're going to implement it quickly without restrictions. DeSantis would ruin it and all that. Do you think that could help them get him out of office?
I think it could. I mean, Florida is such a strange place in terms of its election dynamics, and then it also has, the additional kind of like X factor of the Cuban population. Of course, most voters from Central and South America vote mostly for Democrats. Cubans are the primary exception to that. You also have a lot of folks who are, we could say they colloquially live in Florida, but they may not vote in Florida because they only spend part of the year there. So sometimes even like the people you see in Florida and talk to aren't necessarily Florida voters. You also have the opposite, people who you would think are voting elsewhere but are actually voting in Florida. I think that there's a real opportunity because we do see that sometimes you see a dynamic in certain states where even though they're still voting for a lot of Republicans, on issues and on ballot initiatives and on local races, you start seeing them move to the left, and it can be like a leading indicator as to what is eventually going to happen. So I like the idea that you're suggesting. I think trying to help the left by attaching a candidate potentially to a ballot initiative or issue-based campaign is a really great idea. But I don't pretend to know enough about the wackiness of Florida to be able to say for sure whether it would be successful.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I just think that DeSantis, especially, he's a big political threat to the Democrats. I feel like he's a really good chance at being the nominee in 24 without Trump. So I think that if he lost his reelection, that would be a big, that would be a big blow to his nomination chances. But I'm assuming that he's
I don't. I think you're probably thinking of this idea that you're not going to do well if the last thing you did was lose a race. But look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden, lost the primary in 2016, and then he won the primary and became president. Now you could say 2020 was an outlier, but
wait.
it's not that obvious to me that
I
DeSantis.
thought Biden he wasn't in the primary. I thought he didn't run.
Biden was not. Oh wait, hold on. No, Biden ran. No, Biden did run in. Wait, did Biden not run in 2016? Now I don't even remember.
No, because Bo died and he because Bo died like not long before the election. He said he like just wasn't emotionally ready. He was thinking
Oh
about it,
yeah,
but he
that's
didn't.
right. What am I even talking about?
Yeah, it's all good.
Hey, listen. You know what?
Yeah.
You may be completely right on DeSantis. No, I mean I think the principle. I think it's not totally clear to me that a DeSantis loss is the end for him for 2024. I just think anything could happen in the Republican Party. Once Trump won a Republican primary, it's sort of like all bets are off. Anything could happen. And we already saw Nikki Haley say this week that if Trump runs, she won't, and she will support Trump. I think for the most part, people are going to be deferring to Trump in 2024.
Yeah, well, I'm just DeSantis just worries me because I feel like he'd be a more effective Trump. He's like if Trump's fascism went to law school. That's
Right.
what I
No, I
feel.
completely agree with
But
you.
we'll see.
He has all
Yeah.
the same bad
But
instincts and amorality of Trump, but he's more competent
and more polished.
and more polished. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. All right, Ricky, thank you for the call. I appreciate it.
Yep.
All
Thanks,
right.
Ed.
There it is.